Good morning. My name is Mike. This is the Aud Pod, and today we are talking to a group of, podcasters. And it looks like there's 5 of them, so the voices are going to get a little bit confusing. So I'm going to drop a quick intro from them here, and then hopefully you will realize which voice belongs to which person. Now, you will find this is an edited podcast, and we went on for over an hour, so there's a lot of content here that I had to cut out because we were all over the map. If you'd like to hear the unedited version, please go check out my Patreon. It's in the links below. But for now, sit back and enjoy, and we're going to talk with a game called Quest.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Rose, and I am the game master / guide. I play every character that is not a player character. So I have many voices.
Hi, everyone. My name is Manny, and I play Dr. Turtle.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sue, and I play Elise.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ben, and I play Thorn.
I'm Brett, and I play Yasalga / Gray.
Oh, right. I also play Zuri. Oh, my God.
Hi, I'm Sean. You won't be hearing my voice in the podcast.
Do you want to go again, Sue?
Yeah. Wait, I'm sorry. So we were mentioning both our human and our other characters?
Yeah, say, like, I'm Sue, and I play... I forget the character.
Hi, I'm Sue, and I play Zuri, and I also play Elise.
A game called Quest is an actual play / audio drama podcast. We play a game called Quest, which is a role-playing game that is fantasy-based, a lot of high fantasy, a lot of, it's RP heavy, so we have a lot of character development, a lot of scene work, and it is about 4 nerdy gamer people who accidentally get magically sucked into their role-playing game and body swapped with their characters. So 4 regular people start to play a normal game of Quest, and then disaster strikes and they suddenly wake up and are no longer in their human bodies. They're in the bodies of their dwarf, their tree person, their super badass fighter lady, and a turtle. Chaos ensues from there.
Okay, now my quick question on that. This is a Dungeons & Dragons, like based on Dungeons & Dragons, or is this based on something else?
So Dungeons & Dragons is a role-playing game that is very mainstream, and then there are other games that kind of trickle off from there. There's a lot of independent RPGs and other types of role-playing games, and Quest is a fantasy game that has some similarities to Dungeons & Dragons, but it's created by TC Sodic. It's actually an independent game.
Oh, that's good to know. See, I read that in the description, like when I was looking at the podcast notes, but I didn't, all of that went over my head because I'm not part of the gaming culture.
Yeah.
I guess you could say. So like I have some colleagues at work who play various games, but I never really got into it. So that kind of explains it. So this is like same universe, different world, I guess. Is that how it works?
Yeah, it's like the same community. So there's a lot of overlap between Dungeons and Dragons and other games, but it's a different style of gaming, I guess, than Dungeons and Dragons. It's still role play, so we all play different characters, and we roll a 20-sided die to determine outcomes of situations. So there's this improvisational element to it, but it's different than Dungeons and Dragons. Quest is its own game.
Okay. And did everyone here know everyone else before you started playing? Like, what made you decide to join this all together and get into it?
Does anybody want to speak to that?
Yeah, I can. So Rose and I went to college together. Sue and I actually know each other from working on theater. We're both theater performers. So I was her assistant director for something. And I assume that Rose and Sue both met each other through Endangered Species Theater Project, which is a theater company that we all work for. Brett is my romantic partner, And Ben is actually new to all of this. I'm pretty sure Rose met Ben through some sort of like, I'm interested in doing an RPG. Who else is interested in doing this with us?
Oh, that's kind of cool. So you do all okay. And Sean over there, how did he fall into this? So
Rose and I met through working on a separate podcast where I'm also an editor and she's also an actor.
Oh, that's interesting. Is that podcast still around?
Oh yeah, it's still ongoing. We're gonna be hitting the 150th episode here shortly sometime.
Wow, that's a big number.
Yeah, that podcast is called Moon Harbor Heroes. It's about superheroes. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, and it's not really hard to hit 150 episodes when you put out 3 a week.
Yeah, I guess that would do it.
Yeah.
It's the editing part and the finding time to record them. That's what I find interesting with these games is how are you recording? Was this all pre-COVID or how did you manage to set this up so you can all record together?
Can I mention that? So the way that this whole thing came together was actually from a guy who's no longer with us. Andres,
he's just not.
I'm sorry, that sounded bad. Andres decided that he wanted to focus on like the BLM movement and protests out in his area, which we applaud him for. And he was awesome enough to give us his blessing to continue on with the podcast. But it was originally his idea to create a podcast based on the game Quest, and he was the one who originally put out the call on Discord. Mike, I don't know if you're familiar with Discord, but it's an app. Are you familiar with it?
Do I look that old?
I don't know. I never know. I talk to people that are young and they don't know about it. So it's not an age thing. It's about it's just about whether you're into the gaming culture, which is mainly what Discord is used for, as far as I know. But anyway, yeah. So it started on the Quest Discord server because they have their own Discord server created by TC, and Andres was looking for people, and I was one of the first people to pop up, and then Rose, and then and then basically it was Rose that found everybody else. But yeah, that's how I got involved. So I'm sort of from the beginning before it was what it is now.
Is this like a quarantine podcast? Do you plan on keep going, or what is your plan with this?
So our plan is to go until we finish the story, at least, because it has like kind of a specific, it's going to be kind of have a beginning, middle, and end. When that ends, we'll decide where we want to go from there. But we record online. We meet in Discord, and we record using something called Craig, and then we also record individually on our own devices, like locally. So it's all done virtually. So we don't have to meet in person. Our characters in the game, they do meet in person, and it does take place during the COVID-19 pandemic, but they're all in each other's social bubble, so they do so safely.
Okay, well that makes perfect sense then, because I'm glad you're doing it that well. Obviously, I'm glad you're doing it that way, but by recording it individually, it makes it so much easier then to edit later, because now you have 6 or 7 or however many layers to an editing track that you do, and you're not going to get that over talk, where the voices just get all garbled and such.
Exactly.
Are you recording an episode at a time, or are you guys playing and then you're taking that later and saying, okay, this is 3 episodes because we played for 3 hours or something, or how's that all work when you get it slicing and dicing?
So typically we play for 2 to 3 hours. Would you guys agree with that statement? Yeah, so we'll play for 2 to 3 hours, and then we'll splice that into 30-minute episodes. Of course, like a lot of chaos can go down during a game, and I'm sure the group can attest to that. And we probably have some funny stories about that. But so some of it gets cut, and then it ends up being, I think for the first game that we played, it ended up being 3 separate episodes.
Okay, so that's what got you into it. Now, what are you listening to that inspires you enough to keep going with this podcast? Because are you listening to similar podcasts yourself, or is it completely off channel, or like when I say off channel, I mean off topic. And actually, let's start with Rose, and we'll go to Manny, then Ben, Brett, Sean, and Susie. Is it Sue or Susie? I'm sorry.
It's Roastery, but I go by Sue for short.
On a Monday, yeah. So on a Monday morning when you wake up and you're like, shit, I got to face the day. What kind of gets you through the week that you wake up to and you say, okay, well, I'm going to listen to this podcast, for example. I'm just always curious about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I listen to some actual plays. I commute to and from work, and it's like a 45-minute commute. So I often will listen to podcasts on my commute. And some of the ones that I listen to are the Magpies, which is like, I don't really know how to describe it. It's a game called Blades in the Dark, and it's very like almost like steampunk fantasy, ghosts, creepy things, and it's pretty fun. And then I listen to Dungeons and Daddies.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them.
And it's not a BDSM podcast, is the tagline, but sometimes it can be on the verge of a BDSM podcast. But it's about 4 dudes who go to the Forgotten Realms, and they're dads, and they're trying to save their kids. It's cute.
Yeah, I've heard that one. I've listened to like maybe 20 minutes of it. It's hard to find time to listen to everything, but yeah, that one struck me as kind of funny. What about you, Manny? What are you listening to?
So I'm not much of a podcast listener. I only listen to really one podcast, and it's been a while. Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast, is what I listen to. It basically like goes back and talks about all of the like behind the scenes stuff and recaps all of the Star Trek episodes all the way from the first pilot from the original series. Which is pretty cool. But there is a D&D YouTube channel that's also on like dropout.tv called Dimension 20. They do a bunch of different campaigns. Their dungeon master is Brandon Lee Mulligan, and he is very interested in decolonizing the D&D world, which has been a pretty big issue of late. He's very much into representation of people of color, queer people, trans, and other minorities.
Sorry, what was that one called again?
Dimension 20.
What about you, Ben? What do you listen to?
So I have to be in a certain mood for podcasts. I go through phases with pretty much everything that I'm interested in, where I'll be really into it and then I won't be. So right now I'm not really listening to any podcasts except for this one. I listen to this one whenever it comes out, but probably the last ones that I was into and the ones that sort of got me started in listening to like actual play podcasts would be The Adventure Zone by the McElroys and God's Fall, which is an LGBT cast of God's Fall and its spinoff, The Rise of the Demigods. They're like a LGBT group that plays Dungeons and Dragons in this sort of superhero-y kind of world of Dungeons and Dragons. And then also one that's not role-playing related is Myths and Legends, which is a guy that retells myths and legends, obviously. So that's a good one too. But I'm just not really. I don't know, for whatever reason I haven't been into podcasts. I've just been listening to music lately.
I thought I had that first one listed, but sorry, what did you say it was called?
The first one I mentioned, The Adventure Zone, by the McElroys.
Yeah, I thought I was listening to that. Sorry, but I guess I wasn't. That's interesting. What about you, Brett? What are you listening to?
The podcast world is actually pretty new to me. I haven't really gotten to explore too much. I listen to a great podcast called A Game Called Quest. And I have a wonderful partner that's also gotten me into Dimension 20 a little. And sometimes, I like a lot of stand-up comedy. I'll just like put on a single episode of whatever pops up first of different like comedy podcasts. But I don't think I could name them.
That's fine. I mean, some people aren't into it. I understand. I guess it depends what you do with all your spare time. Which takes us to Sean.
Well, in my work where I get paid, I am a delivery driver, so I am in the car all day and I need something to entertain me. So I listen to a lot of podcasts. Currently, I am on a quest to listen to every game that is an actual play of Masks: A New Generation, which is a wonderful superhero game. Everyone should play it. And I think I've only got about 3 podcasts left after the 9 or 10 that I've gone through already.
So what's it called? Masks? That's the name of the podcast?
No, that's the name of the game that all these different podcasts are playing. The podcast specifically, would you like me to go down the list, or should I just say all of the Masks APs?
Well, can you give me 1 or 2 examples? I've never heard of any of them. I've never even heard of the series.
I think like the best for if you want to get a good first look at Masks, I would recommend Protean City Comics, obviously Moon Harbor Heroes, but I'm biased on that one. And recently, I've been really loving Apex City, which is has a wonderful GM who is just wonderfully cruel to their players, and it makes great storytelling.
Okay, well, that sounds interesting. So it's a superhero themed real-time gaming.
Yeah, so you know, have you ever watched or read any of the Teen Titans or Young Justice?
Yeah, well, I've watched the Teen Titans cartoons with my kids, which I find hilariously funny.
Yeah, so Masks is a game about teen superheroes coming into their own. So there's a lot of storytelling potential there.
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun. But now you've taken it from just a fictional world into a game playing, like a role playing world.
Yep.
Oh, that'd be fun. Do you guys write any fan fiction at all for stuff like that? Does anyone?
A lot of people do. I have in the past, but not for Masks.
I actually started working on like an outline for a Teen Titans fanfic, but I never got it off the ground.
Oh, that'd be fun. I don't see why you wouldn't. And what about you, Sue? What are you listening to?
So, to be perfectly honest, I didn't even know about the podcast world very well up until I joined this. The only thing that I would say is even remotely close to a podcast is this D&D episodic thing that I was watching, where like all these like celebrities turn into animated characters and they play like little Dungeons and Dragons together. But I cannot for the life of me remember what the name was. But it's
would it be Celebrity D&D?
Ha!
I know that's one of them.
Like these animated characters and stuff and go through the adventures, and it's super cute and wholesome. Anyway, it's really cute. I've only seen like a couple episodes of that.
Is that a YouTube thing, or is that on regular TV? Or
I saw it on YouTube personally, but yeah, I don't have that much experience with podcasts. This whole thing was very new to me, even though I love tabletop games quite a lot and I have shelves full of them.
Is it called Harmon Quest?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Wow. Nice. Maddie can read my mind. So, so I have like shelves full of like lots of different kinds of like board games, and I'm obsessed with them. But I somehow managed to never play D&D even as an actor. So this was like a very new, really sweet and nerve-wracking experience for me. And they've all taken me under their wing like a little duckling, and I appreciate them all. And this has been delightful and very different.
so is this your first time in the gaming world then too?
No. I play a lot of different games. I just haven't played a tabletop role-playing game before.
Okay.
Yeah, like something like D&D, but I played like Dominion, and I love. Gosh, my mind is blank right now. There's a lot going on in the world.
She's the resident video game nerd among us.
Yes, that's that. Thank you for speaking English for me.
Oh yeah, and okay, what console do you play on then?
Lots of PC stuff. I used to play a lot on Xbox 360. I started out with a GameCube. I have a Nintendo DS. I have the PlayStation, and then I have the Nintendo, the newest one with the
Switch.
Yes, thank you. Oh my gosh, my brain is not working this morning. To be honest, I just woke up like right before this, and I'm not a morning person. But yes, I'm very, very much so a video game person, even though like my actor schedule makes that quite hard.
Yeah, I think it depends on the games. I don't know if you can see me behind it. There's a Commodore 64 over there and a Tira Sadie over there, and but when I play games, they're often the 70s and 80s. My buddy owns an arcade up north.
What is your favorite genre of games?
70s and 80s. Asteroids, Donkey Kong, Pac-Man.
Yes.
That kind of genre.
Oh my goodness, yes. I think one of my first games was actually Pac-Man, so there that is.
Okay, so we went off topic, but actually, if you're into gaming, there's so many podcasts that are into that. Actually, and especially if you're into retro gaming, there's like retro gaming podcasts just all over the map. And I think a lot of their slogans are the latest news on the oldest tech or something.
Ooh, what a fun thing to say.
Yeah.
Also, I think when you're playing video games, I always like to listen to podcasts when I play video games because, I have ADHD, so my brain likes to do 30 things at a time. So that really helps me. Which, speaking of, everyone should listen to my ADHD podcast, which is called What Was I Saying? Living with ADHD, while we're talking about podcasts. But I listen to stuff while I play video games so that I can have my ear, my brain can listen to stories while I play, if I'm playing Skyrim or something like that. So would recommend a podcast while playing a video game if you're feeling.
Wow, that is completely different from me because I also have similar issues of not being able to stay on track and stuff. But when I'm reading a book or playing a video game, I'm completely absorbed and I can't hear anything or anyone else.
So you're hyper focused.
I would not be able to do that. Not a multitasker at all.
That's one of the things that I think you'll find when you do, if you find that your mind gets distracted a lot, you'll find that's why I like listening to podcasts, because you can say, okay, I'm going to find a 1 hour podcast or a 45-minute podcast. I don't care really what it's on. And then you'll just force yourself to exercise that 45 minutes to an hour away from any distractions. So that might mean going for a walk or going for a run or getting outside of your house where there's 1,000 distractions in front of you. And it kind of keeps you focused. And while you're doing that, while your feet are moving, then you can kind of, I guess, organize all the crazy thoughts that you're having in your head at that point and kind of figure out what you're going to focus on. It's funny, this is the third or fourth gaming podcast or people I've interviewed for games, and a lot of them seem to have ADHD. I don't know. I'm just saying maybe it's a trait that drives the people towards the gaming because they're complicated games and they require a lot of imagination and they require you to kind of pull at all sections of your brain to focus on what you're doing. So I think that might be why they're popular.
Yeah, I could say for sure that I'm drawn towards RPGs because they occupy a lot of the brain at the same time and they require a lot of creativity. And I feel especially when I'm GMing, but when I'm playing too, there's all these different plates to juggle, but they're all related to each other. So it allows me to hyper-focus while also, it allows me to hyper-focus. The end, period.
Okay, now when you're editing, this is directed to, so it's Rose and Sean that does the editing, or Rose and Sean? Okay. When you're editing, do you listen to anything at all? Oh, you can't, I guess. But how do you focus on it then? Because if you have a 3-hour chunk of audio that you have to take apart, how do you focus then when you're editing?
Well, I don't do the 3-hour chunks of editing. That's Sean's area because I have done that before. I've edited a lot of podcast episodes prior to this because of other projects that I worked on. And I'm also a voice actor, so I do a lot of editing for my, voiceover reels and auditions and things like that. But a lot of times it can be you have to really focus to edit. So that's actually why one of the reasons when this project was all beginning, I was looking for another person to help out. And I think initially Ben was actually going to also assist, but Ben is a full-time student and a parent and also works a full-time job. So we were kind of on the hunt to find another person to help out. And I think the other actors in the room can attest that I personally, it's not my skill set to spend lots of hours cutting out breaths and being very meticulous about that kind of thing. So what I really like about the editing that I do is that I get to be very creative with it. So I layer in all of the dramatic music and background sound effects and things like that. And I occasionally will cut words and things like that. Like it is a very collaborative process for for Sean and I for editing, but mostly I paint the picture, right? Or, you know, actually the actors, we all paint the picture together. All of the gamers, we paint the picture together. And then Sean like makes it pretty. And then I like frame it, would be the way that I would picture it.
Okay. And when you start playing a game, do you discuss where you want it to end up at the start of the session? Or do you just kind of let it roll, so to speak, and see where it ends up?
Does somebody else want to speak to the process of playing a game?
Let's pick on Brett.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah. I mean, the playing tabletop role-playing games is also pretty new to me, but so you probably don't really understand how it works. My understanding is Rose comes in with a plan for us that's like, all right, I've got some ways this will go. You know, I've got it planned out into what I think will end up as an episode, and then we play it out from there. And there's also a an ongoing conversation between all of us on like, hey, how's everybody feeling? You know, this could be a stopping point, or we could keep going from here. And so we play it by ear, but I think with a plan behind all of it.
Okay, well, that's a good enough answer. Yeah, that would work. And then now when you're doing the audio recording, everyone here seems to have their own mics. So I see Rose got a headset, and I see Ben and Sue are using dangly cords kind of thing. I was just curious how, when everyone records this, and are you all recording in Audacity and then sending it off to Sean and Rose? Is that how it's working?
Yeah, so we either use Audacity. There's also an online recording thing that Rose gives all of us, and I've used GarageBand in the past. So we all do, we are in Discord, and Craig records us there, but then we all have our own localized recordings that Rose and Sean then use to piece everything together.
And is that also allow video?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now this is where Ben would say, "Oh, see, he doesn't know Discord," because I've never used the video portion of it, and I've heard about the Craig bot before, but that's always kind of interesting. And then when you are editing that, what are you editing, and Sean? Because I imagine you probably get the file first, and you're going to slice and dice it down, and then hand it off to Rose, who's going to add the effects.
Yeah, originally I was working in Audacity, though it proved that with this many people, it was too many voice files for Audacity to reliably handle without just slowing down to a crawl. So recently I've been learning a software called Reaper, which I'm sure many people in the audio editing community are familiar with. And I'm finally getting to grips with it after about 3 weeks. But working in a DAW has been a change of pace, as one might expect.
Sorry, what is a DAW?
I believe it's a dedicated audio workspace, something like that. It's a term apparently industry professionals use.
Editing in, you said it was called Reaper? And then Rose gets that file, and what do you edit in?
Well, I'm trying to learn Reaper, but it's slow. I'm familiar with Audacity. I mostly use Audacity. And I download sound effects from various free sound effect websites, and we use copyright-free music. And yeah, I really enjoy doing that. It's fun to like make an auditory landscape. That's actually one of my, I guess one thing I do for fun is I write poetry, and then I make audio experiences, I guess. So I write poetry about current events, and then I will overlay sound effects in the background. So I've always been very interested. And also I have definitely dabbled in sound design in the theater world. So basically, Sean does all the actually difficult, challenging work, and then I just like play games.
Okay, well, that sounds all great. Now, now you said you want to complete the story. Is there going to be a season 2 to this? Because when I look at all the current podcasts you hear, it all says episode 0, and that's the introduction to the characters. And then you're going to enter the gameplay. This could go on for a while. Are you aware that this might last a little bit longer than you think it might? Like, I'm not talking about the COVID stuff. I'm talking about the game that you're playing.
Oh, well, I don't know. I think, we're all going to do our best to play for as long as we can. Every person in the podcast has many life commitments and things going on outside of it. But we have a large listener base. We get 5,000 listens a month already, and we started like a month ago. So we're, building and growing pretty rapidly. And so we want to, support the listeners that we have. And we're doing something that is somewhat rare still in the gaming community, which is that we have this podcast that's an RPG podcast that is not Dungeons and Dragons and has a diverse cast and crew. And so we want to continue doing that for as long as we can. We'll see what happens when we finish this arc, basically, but it's a long story. It's going to be at least a year of gaming to finish out the story, and then longer than that because every game is multiple episodes.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a challenge. Like first off, getting everyone together, then the editing, and then putting it all together. So, are you meeting once a week? You're meeting every day, or how often are you guys meeting? Anyone?
We meet every other week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that works out fine then. Still, that's a lot of time, but okay. I think I got everything.
We're supposed to meet every other week, but life and sickness and all sorts of stuff gets in the way.
Yeah, I accidentally inhaled powdered sugar, and I couldn't talk for a week.
Mm-hmm. I had COVID and it did stop me, bro. So I don't know what your problem is.
You know what? You didn't have to play a super evil, scary lady and not want to sound like a 15-year-old boy going through puberty.
You know what? I feel like Ben is giving you a lot. So, next time we play, you should just really
rocks fall, Ben dies.
Yeah, rocks fall, Ben dies. Out of the podcast.
To be fair, though, I do think that a 15-year-old boy going through puberty is one of the scariest things on the planet.
Oh, God.
Would you like me to bring one into the room? Because I have one. He's just over there.
Here's one I prepared earlier.
I would just like to clarify something. Rose keeps on saying that she has to keep on the word that she takes out when she's editing is bread, and that's because he's painfully cringy in everything that he does, and he does it on purpose. So the rest of us are just in pain as he's making really dumb jokes, and we have to say his name.
In order also, the podcast is family friendly, and Manny says "fuck" a lot.
Yeah, Manny calling somebody else.
I have actually started saying "frickin' frag" specifically so that I'll stop cursing as much. So you're welcome.
Well, "fuck" only stands for fornication under consent of the king.
Ooh,
and when couples were starting to hang out at hotels, or not hotels, but roadside events for a couple, a man and a woman, well, in this case, a boy and a girl, to share a room together, they had to have a signed notice, and that's where marriage came from, saying that they may procreate under consent of the king. Wow. So it was just a sign. So "fuck" was just fornication.
I should add that to my timeline for our game.
I'm really learning a lot from Michael.
I have to think about
all this gray hair.
The silver fox in it.
Yeah, and I'm a lot. Pardon me?
Isn't that what it's called, the silver fox, when you have all white hair?
When you have white hair, yeah. I'm more like Gandalf with it's more like gray hair. And then the other guy was the white hair, and then there's the gray, I think, below that. But when you get old, you'll learn a lot of useless facts too.
I would love to be Gandalf, so please, yes, teach me your ways. That's great.
Teach us how to be Gandalf, Mike. Impart your wisdom.
Shit, I don't have my wand here.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if you pulled it out and said, "Well, there's my staff."
I know it's here somewhere. It's in one of these boxes. Anyway, I think I got everything. I really appreciate coming on here. So where can everyone find you socially? Is it all under... Do you have a website set up, or is it all under shoot, podcast.com, you said, right?
So we have, if you're interested in like finding any of our like podcasting posted places or our social medias or joining our Discord or anything like that, we have a link tree. Yeah, so on Twitter we're at Game Called Quest, and if you go to our Twitter, you can find our link tree through that. And we are available for listening on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and basically anywhere that you can imagine a podcast being, you can listen to us there. But we definitely really want you to listen to it on Apple Podcasts and leave us a review.
All right, I think I got everything. I really appreciate that. It was fun. I'll let you know how the editing comes along. And it was really fun talking to you all, and I appreciate you spending an hour with me this morning.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sure.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Bye. Every episode has like is
You
should send like
up for Canada.
you should send like letter. You should send gift packages to your guests like prior to recording, and just everybody just gets an envelope full of weed.
I just slightly unrelated, but also related. For the longest time, when I first came to America, I thought cocaine was coke, but like a different way. And then I realized that it was like powder drugs, and I was like, "Oh, weird." I also thought it was baby powder for a while. It was very confusing. I still don't fully understand. Anyway,
Well, Coca-Cola initially had cocaine in it.
That's right, but I didn't find that out until last year. So when I first came to America, I was just like, "Oh, it must be like cocaine." So maybe it's like named after a celebrity, like King Coke or something.
Or the coca leaf.
Anyway, really just exposing myself on this interview.
That's okay. A lot of it's going to get cut. Well, some of it will get cut. I'll save that part right for the very end.